Hey, y'all doing? This is Preacher Man R&B, and this is another Arrow Reviews Thursdays. This week is Season 1, Episode 20. What happened on this week's episode is, in the flashback scenes, Oliver's getting trained to be able to hit his targets with the arrow. Now that he has the power to pull the draw bow back, Shadow's trying to help him be able to hit his targets. And the reason that she's doing this because they got a plan to hit the people on the island that got some held captive there. And to do this, Oliver has to be their cover with the bow and arrow. That way they'll be protected. So he's trying to figure out how to do this, and he keeps missing. And Shadow's still working with him. And then after they train, they go back to the plane. And Slade's getting upset because Oliver's not getting this, and we think he's just getting. When you first watch this, you think he's getting upset because he's not getting this. But in next season, we find out that the reason he didn't is upset is because he has feelings for Shadow. And in the next season, we find out that Shadow and Oliver get together, and that puts a wedge between Oliver and Slade. And after this happens, Faye comes back, and Shadow goes to hug him, and Slade asks him how did he escape. Faye tells him that he didn't escape, and the guards come on the plane and they're surrounded. And that's what happens in the flashback episodes. What's happening in the present day, Floyd Lawton kills this guy, and then after this, Argus sets up a fake meetup for a client that is going to use Floyd Lawton to arrest Floyd Lawton. And when Aldous has got this set up there, Diddle's ex-wife, Lila, is the one that's supposed to meet up with Floyd, and she got all our Argus agents surrounding her in disguise. And Floyd Lawton has his sights set on Lila, and he starts shooting everybody around Lila, and Diddle jumps in and saves Lila, and goes after Floyd Lawton. But when Diddle does this, him and Floyd Lawton fight, and Floyd Lawton gets two pistols and points them at Diddle and makes him get on his knees, and Diddle says he's going to pay Floyd Lawton back for killing his brother. And he says the only reason he ain't killing Diddle right now is because ain't nobody paying him. And he shows the tattoo of Diddle's brother on his chest, and he says, "This spot right here is for you, right beside your brother. You'll be best to remember that." And Floyd Lawton gets away. Well, what else is happening? There's this kid that his parents is testifying against this guy that stole all their money, and this guy was supposed to get them to invest in his company, and what he really did was rip this boy's mother and father off and stole everything they had. So they get Laurel to go after this guy, and she does. And when this happens, this guy hires this hitman. And a little side note, the guy who plays this hitman plays Deathlock on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So whenever I review Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I'll talk about him. I just ain't got that DVD set of Season 1 or 2 yet, so if they ever find them, I'll start reviewing them, and we'll talk more about that later. But anyway, he kills this boy's parents, and he's going to kill the little boy. But the little boy locks his door and escapes through the window. And he finds, and he social services is going to take him in, and Laura says that she's going to sign for a temporary guardianship so the little boy will be alright until they find his grandparents. So he goes to stay with Laura, and the hitman comes to Laura's place, and he shoots up the door and goes after Laura and Tommy, and then Oliver comes in as the arrow and stops this guy, and the guy gets away. And Detective Lance wants Laurel not to watch this kid because it's too dangerous. And Tommy says the safest place for them right now is to be at Oliver's place, and that's the truth. Because Oliver's mansion is covered with the security guards and Oliver's arrows, so he can protect him. So that's what happens. And the guy comes to Oliver's house and destroys the generator and tries to get this boy again. And Oliver puts Laurel, Tommy, and the boy in the boy's room they're staying in and gets the doorknob off the door so can't nobody get in. And what happens is Oliver stops this guy and they get in the fight. and the guy's trying to kill Oliver, and Oliver gets a pike from a fireplace and stabs this guy in the throat, kills him. And after this, Tommy tells Oliver that he's going to break up with Laurel, because if Laurel ever found out that Oliver was the Arrow, that Laurel will leave Tommy for him, and he was just going to break it off with her because he couldn't compete with Oliver. So he breaks up with Laurel, and that's what happens at the end of this episode. My question for y'all is, what do you think is going to happen in the next episode? Because we're getting pretty close to the end of the season. We got 3 more episodes. What do you think is going to happen with the Undertaking? As always, it's Preacher Man Arnold be signing out. Guys, good. Jesus is awesome. See y'all next time.